Hey guys, how's it going? It's me, the Shortwave, and welcome back to another episode of You Learn Something Every Day. Yes, it might be the same shirt as the last video, and yes, it might be the same day, don't worry about that. In the top corner, you can see the topic of what we're discussing, flea markets. Strange topic. Now, I thought this one up because I was recently at the Pike Place Market in Seattle, which is it's basically one of the main reasons why Seattle is famous, along with the Space Needle. But it's an open air, huge market, mainly for groceries. They have, like, one of their big things is there's a fish stall for fresh fish where the vendors will wrap up the fish and, like, toss them at you, and you have to, like, catch them and stuff. I don't eat fish, but that's, like, the big thing. Then there's also, there are just, like, lots of grocery stores with fresh produce. There are also, in the lower half, there's, like, an old magic store, and there are all these cool stores which have all this antique vintage stuff. It's mainly for food, but there is, a lot of stuff. There are also a lot of restaurants around there. There's, like, Rachel's Ginger Beer, which has great ginger beer. Please become a local sponsor, Rachel's Ginger Beer. There's also, like, the wall of gum. There's a lot of cool stuff there. It's basically awesome. It's really crowded always, and it's this huge bustling market. But it's not exactly a flea market, despite the fact that they do sell some strange stuff and clothing and stuff there, along with cookware, household items. Now, that's why I thought I would discuss flea markets with you. Now, flea markets, and the main thing we're going to be discussing is why they're called that. But let's go back and talk about the history of flea markets. Now, flea markets are sort of this concept of, like, a bazaar. It's a concept that originated all throughout the world. There's no, like, one unique place where it arose. But it's basically like an open-air market, in essence. It's a place where people get together and can sell, like, old or used items, and it's usually sort of just household stuff or things that they don't want. A lot of the times it'll be, like, clothing, bed sheets, furniture, it's anything, really. Anything people don't want, they bring to flea markets to sell, because one man's junk can be another man's junk, is the concept behind a flea market. No one actually wants the stuff they sell there. Now, these first originated in America. We're talking about America. They didn't first originate in America, but when they first started in America, that's what I meant by first originated in America. They were in Texas in 1873, created by auctioneer Russell Carroll as an outdoor auction. Obviously, he was an auctioneer, and he wanted to get rid of a bunch of antique stuff. Like, he was like, okay, what's a way we can make this more popular, make more people come to it? And he was like, what if we come up with a place to trade antique items, and we can get people to get together under, like, tents and stuff, and they can all sell their stuff. And that was in 1956. Now, before that, in 1873, I know I said originated under Russell Carroll, he was the guy who really popularized it, but earlier it was also a thing in Texas in America as a place to trade your horses. These flea markets as a whole, as I said, are the bizarre idea, not bizarre idea, a bizarre idea, and it's sort of, that pun was too good for me, I'm sorry. There's sort of this, it's a concept that was mainly originated in India and China, a lot along the whole of the Silk Road as it became a common thing, and also in France and England. But let's get to the meat of the word when we're talking about France, because that's important. The origin of the word, it's very heavily debated, actually, because, the term flea market actually came up in a lot of places at once, so it's hard to trace back where it originally came from. A lot of people say, it's because, of France. Now, in France, these markets were called, and I'm gonna brutally massacre this if you speak French, because I don't speak French at all, but I believe it's like marché à pucer, something like that. I'll put it up on the screen or something, but it literally translates to market of the fleas. And this was because in France a lot of people would be selling their furniture and ancient clothing, and the fleas would those would become infested because they would be sitting outside for days on end, and, you know, it was just awful. Fleas everywhere. And that's a lot of people think that's the one because that literally is a market of fleas, a flea market. However, also in 18th century New York, they were referred to in a newspaper as or maybe not a newspaper, they're referred to as using the Dutch word, and I think this is, I also don't know Dutch, but I think it's Vlaai, which kind of sounds like fly, and they're called fly markets, and the Dutch word actually means a swamp or something vile or a valley. So that's also because they took place near the East River, which we all know is not very clean at all. But it's sort of because there would be flies there, and it just, well, it wasn't necessarily sanitary, and, you know, same concept as in France, there would be, like, flies and everything, and no one actually wanted to go to that. That's gross. Who wants flies everywhere? So yeah, I mean, it came from the Dutch word, but was translated to, or sort of phonetically became fly in New York. However, there's also another concept that it could be a reference to the people who would actually sell stuff at flea markets, at these markets, and it's thought to be that it could be a reference to the people who sold the items and how they sort of annoyingly would, like, pester customers. They would be like, buy this stuff, you know you want to buy, like, my giant chair that I can hold in 2 hands for some reason, or you want to buy this tiny pot that my grandmother gave to me, and they would sort of keep on pestering people and be like, buy our money, and, you know, sort of foist items on them, similar to how a parasite might stick to someone and keep bugging them, as fleas are. So those are 3 different origins of the name, and I'll let you choose if you want them to be if you want the word to come from France, New York, and or Deutschland. And also, it could be a reference to the people who sold stuff there. But you know what? You can decide with what I've given you, or do some further research if you want. Anyways, thanks so much for dropping by. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. If there's anything you would like me to talk about that you don't know, I can be your personal Google. Just leave it in the comment section below. And if I see an idea that's up there, I will certainly do some research on it, take it, and make a video about it. But in the meantime, thanks so much for dropping by, and I'll see you guys in the next episode of whatever that may be. Don't forget to live long and peace out. Bye!